You know that feeling, right? That little twitch to check your phone even when you just put it down. You might blame yourself, think it's a lack of willpower. But what if I told you it's not you? It's not a personal failing at all. It's by design. Okay, let's get into this, because that constant pull is the result of some seriously sophisticated behavioral engineering, and it's happening to all of us. This quote from Stanford Medicine, man, it just nails it. It reframes our phones not as simple tools, but as these super efficient delivery systems for a chemical reward our brains are absolutely wired to chase. We're talking about a biological hook, and to really understand how deep that hook is set, we need to look at where the idea came from. And it's not Silicon Valley. So just look at this for a second. On the left, you've got a classic slot machine. On the right, your social media feed. What on earth could these two things possibly have in common? Well, it turns out pretty much everything. They run on the exact same psychological engine, a principle that's designed to turn a simple action into a powerful compulsion. And that brings us to the playbook itself. See, the strategy for keeping you glued to your screen wasn't invented by some tech genius in a hoodie. Nope, it was perfected decades ago in casinos and psychology labs. This isn't some happy accident, it's a cold, hard science. The actual DNA of your feed, the like button, the endless scroll, even that little pull to refresh motion, it all comes directly from the research of this guy, psychologist B.F. Skinner. He's famous for creating something called a Skinner box to figure out exactly how rewards can shape behavior and lock in habits. And here it is. This is the secret sauce. The most powerful tool Skinner discovered was something called a variable ratio schedule. It sounds complicated, but the idea is dead simple. If you give a reward after a totally unpredictable number of tries, the person, or pigeon in his case, will just keep trying forever. It's the maybe that gets you. The maybe this next pull will be the one. That's what makes it so addictive. This table lays it all out pretty clearly. There are different ways to give rewards, right? Some are predictable, but I want you to focus on that second one. Variable ratio. Look at the outcome it produces, a high, steady response rate. That's the jackpot for engagement. Likes, retweets, notifications, the pull to refresh, they are all quite literally digital slot machines designed to keep you pulling that lever again and again and again. Okay, so we've got the psychological design, the playbook they basically lifted from Vegas. But what actually happens when that design hits our own biology? Let's dig into the chemistry here and see what's going on inside our heads with every single scroll and every little like. So your brain, at its core, has one main job. Keep everything in balance. It wants to maintain a nice, stable internal state. The technical term is homeostasis. It really doesn't like being pushed too far in one direction. Too much pleasure, too much pain, for too long. And Dr. Anna Lembke from Stanford has this perfect analogy for it. Imagine a teeter-totter inside your head. On one side, you've got pleasure. On the other, pain. And the chemical that's basically running this whole show is dopamine. It's not just the pleasure molecule. It's about motivation and wanting. So here's how the cycle works. You get a notification, a bunch of likes, bam, that's a huge dopamine hit, and it slams the teeter-totter way down on the pleasure side. But remember homeostasis? Your brain immediately goes, whoa, too much, and it pushes back just as hard on the pain side to restore balance. Now, if you do this over and over, your brain gets really good at pushing back. It starts anticipating the pleasure hit and pre-presses on the pain side, and pretty soon you're not even scrolling to feel good anymore. You're just scrolling to feel normal, to escape that nagging, low-grade pain of a dopamine deficit. And that, right there, is the biological trap. And that biological trap, this constant rewiring of our brains, has led to some massive consequences. And nowhere is this more obvious than with the first generation to grow up with this tech from the beginning. Social psychologist Jonathan Haidt calls it the great rewiring of childhood. And, well, the data is pretty shocking. I mean, look at this timeline. In just a handful of years between about 2010 and 2015, the entire experience of being a kid was fundamentally changed. Social life moved from the park to the platform. It happened so fast, we as a society never even had a chance to stop and ask, hey, is this actually a good idea? And this is where it gets really sobering. This chart shows what happened right after that great rewiring. Starting around 2012, you see this terrifying spike in ER visits for self-harm, especially among young girls. And at the same time, rates of anxiety and depression for all teens just shoot upward. The correlation, the timing, it's just impossible to ignore. Jonathan Haidt just summarizes this whole paradox perfectly with this quote. While we were so busy making sure kids were safe on the playground, putting helmets on them for everything, we handed them these devices that exposed them to a whole universe of new, invisible dangers with basically no protection at all. Okay, I know this all sounds pretty grim, but it's not a lost cause. Understanding how we got here is the first step. And now we can talk about the way out. HOD actually proposes a very clear collective plan of action. It's based on establishing 4 new societal norms that could actually start to reverse this trend. So here they are. It's a 4-point plan. First, no smartphones before high school. Let their brains develop without this constant interference. Second, no social media until 16. Just raise the age of what we consider internet adulthood. Third, make schools completely phone-free environments. Get them out of the classroom, out of the hallways. And fourth, and this one might be the most important of all, more unsupervised play. Just good old-fashioned get your knees dirty free play. It's where kids learn to be resilient, to solve problems, to actually be human. So, we've seen how this world was built. It wasn't an accident. The variable rewards, the dopamine manipulation, it was all engineered to be a box that's incredibly hard to leave. The question now is for all of us, not just parents or teachers. We're the ones who built this box, and we're the ones living inside it. So, can we think our way out?